University Bicycle Club was founded in 2009 by a group of passionate bike enthusiasts who wanted somewhere to come together and meet like-minded people to discuss quite not only issues but to enjoy what cycling has to offer. So we conduct regular group rides around Perth, holding workshops and other bike-related events when possible. So the club has grown over the years. We're glad to stand here today and present the first Soapbox. I'd just like to take a brief moment to thank Charlotte Dudley. She's been the whole brains behind the operation. Without her, this wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, now to today's presentation. Today we have Heinrich speaking. He was a former CEO of a advocacy group called the Bicycle Transport Alliance. And today we'll be talking about cycling is certainly not a secret and the rise of urban biking and what the rise of urban biking is really all about. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Heinrich.
Thank you. Now, most people actually think about the cycling first in terms of exercise and transport. Sometimes I do as well, but there's a lot of other concepts we can look about in terms of cycling. And today I would sort of take it away from the exercise area into more the community building, the social justice and the population health issues. Perhaps just follow my talks rather than just talking, I don't know. Yep. The first area, oh, that's the wrong way. Try it again. The first area I want to talk about is livable communities. We don't think in terms of transport very much when we look at communities, but actually we should, because what we're doing at the moment in most suburbs, we have people that live in their air-conditioned comfort with a dual car garage. In the morning, they go down to the basement, they hop in the car, they use the remote to open the garage door, they move into the suburb in their metal box called a car with tinted windows and air conditioning. They get all the way to work, go to work, they come back the same way. They're actually never seen as people in the suburbs. There are not persons there, they're just cars moving around. And I think that that's a real problem that in a way kills communities. So then when we look at something called livable communities, you have a contrast. As soon as somebody's either walking or cycling, either to work or to the shops or anywhere else, they're visible as human beings. So all of a sudden you see people in the street rather than cars driving down the road. And in a way that creates a sense of safety. If you walk around and you know who else walks around and you know the people, you know who takes the kids to school, if something happens that doesn't fit, you can see it. Often parents don't like their kids going to school by themselves because of stranger danger. In fact, everybody's walking, the stranger danger just disappears. Now, Jeff Speck, I think there was a book handed around yesterday about Jeff Speck. He said we have known for decades how to make livable cities, yet we have somehow not been able to pull it off. So then he says, if you get walkability right, most of the rest will follow. And I tend to agree that he didn't get it right, but tend to disagree when he says walkability is the key to everything. Because that's true in the inner part of cities, Australian American cities I talk about here. But in the suburbs it's not true. In the suburbs the distances are too big to walk comfortably and it's too boring to walk in the suburbs. However, the bicycle is a really good medium to cover those slightly bigger distances. A kilometre to shops, that's about perhaps 20 minutes walking, is perhaps 5 minutes cycling. So I think if you shift the focus from walking to cycling, we can help the suburbs. Now, one of the manifestations of a safe street is the number of people playing out in the street. Now, I don't know where you people are living, but in my suburb, I don't see many people playing in the streets. The proportion of children playing in the streets is a marker for safety, just like the proportion of female cyclists to male cyclists is a marker of cycling safety and safe cycling environments. And if you don't have people if you don't have kids playing in the streets, it probably means that parents are afraid that bad stuff happens in the streets. So you probably can't see that statistic here, but here we have a comparison of three places. One is in Holland, Almere. One is in the UK, and then we have Perth. And we look at the car usage. Perth is that green column here. Perth of these three has the highest car usage. Milton Keynes is sort of in the middle, and Almere in Holland has the lowest. And then we look at the use of public transport, bicycle and walking, and you can see that in Almere the bicycle proportion is quite high. The walking proportion is pretty high as well. You see in Milton Keynes the walking is reasonably high, cycling is not so threshold, and in Perth we know we have about 2% of trips to work are done by bicycle. Actually it's probably slightly less, but we keep arguing about the decimal point. Is it 1.8, 1.7, 2? We should actually be arguing, should it be 2% or 10%? The consequence of this is when we come to unsupervised outside play, in Perth I dare to say we have none. At least in Bassendean we have none. In Milton Keynes there's some, and in Holland where there's a lot of people walking and cycling, there's about nearly 48% of parents let their kids play unsupervised on the street. Now, this is a really big condemnation of what we're doing here. We have created a suburban environment which is unsafe for kids to play in. When we talk about population health, and most of us have sort of know that there's individual benefits to cycling. We feel better when you cycle and you're fitter and a bit something. And then we look at it sort of in terms of percentage of trips. And when we're looking at the combination of walking and cycling and public transport, there is sort of a little picture emerging here. On the left here we have the USA, we have Australia, we have Canada, we have Ireland, a whole bunch of Anglo-Saxon or English-speaking countries. They have a relatively low combined incident of walking, cycling, public transit. On the other side, we have places like Switzerland, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and so on. And very interestingly, Latvia, I don't know, I haven't been there, so they have a huge amount of public transport. We've probably all seen that particular stat before, but the one that really sort of gets to me to some extent is when we superimpose that on another stat. So on the left here we have the combined incidence of walking, cycling, public transit. That's that scale here. And this scale here is obesity. And it's relatively clear that when we look at places like USA and Australia, walk around in the shopping centres and the malls, we see a lot of fat moving around on two legs. When you go to some of the countries that have a very high use of public transport, walking and cycling, the obesity rates are clearly down. I think that's a really important thing to look at. So cycling has an impact on population health. It's not just the individual, it's the population health that improves. And I think I somewhere have a stat, oh, it comes later on. Well, perhaps I bring that now, actually. No, I'll bring it later. Sorry, I'm changing my mind here. The last little thing I want to look at is social justice issues. The philosopher and social critic, even Illich, was fascinated by technology. 40 years ago, he was arguing that the automobile, rather than a tool of freedom, contributed to entrenching mobility hierarchies. That's 40 years ago. That was in the 70s. We actually come back to the 70s later on in the presentation. The car is a disruptor of the pyramid. And all the other transport modes, it sucked under its tires. That was his wording. He then went on and saw the bicycle as a tool of social justice. He said, by gearing down the speed of everyday life to bicycle speed and having a transportation system that favored this pace of life, the form of the city, in a sense, would be redistributed. So what he's basically saying that if you have in a car-dominated world, the bicycle and people get sucked underneath it, and the space gets allocated to cars. So in terms of social justice, we really have to see a person that rides a $300 bike in the same way as a person who drives a $300,000 Maserati. They should have the same value as far as road space is concerned. And how we spend money today determines how our kids are going to get around. If we spend money on cars, roads for cars, then we will have, our kids will be driving cars wherever they go. Recently, Norway committed 1.5 billion Australian dollars to build specific computer infrastructure for cyclists. That's really saying something about where Norway wants to go with transport. But basically, we're trying that here as well. And at the last election, Bicycle Network went to Tony and said we should spend $7.5 billion, one of Spain, to build 7,500 kilometers of separated cycling infrastructure. And they calculated the saving would be $8.1 billion per year. We all know that it went nowhere. So the logical argument of spending on something that improves population health and the life of people goes nowhere because politicians are really afraid to go there. And by the way, the government body Infrastructure Australia describes our $20 billion a year road spending as hideously inefficient. But we're still doing it. It's just inefficient. Cars are greedy users of space. We probably all have seen the photograph of the bus, 60 bicycle riders and the 60 cars. You more might visualize it. Cars use a lot more space than the bicycles or the bus or the pedestrians. This is a slightly different calculation. In this picture, the static parked space used by various travel modes is actually in red. That's in there. And the rest is the space used when that particular mode of transport moves. Because a moving car takes a lot more space than a car that stands still. And a moving car with a single occupant takes, I think it's square meters per minute used in a comparison. So it's a bit of a complicated scale, but again, you can just look at the graph and can say, okay, that's a car driven by itself, that's a motorcycle on a highway, that's a taxi, so parking because it always moves around. Then down here we have walking and cycling. Walking and cycling, they both use public space really, really efficiently. Now we've got to be aware that in all these space distribution pictures, we're actually looking at the impact of political decisions. None of this just happens. It's not a God-given that we're giving all the space to cars. This is based on political decisions. You want to change that, you have to change the policies. This is another way of looking at the same thing, of the dominance of the cars. This is by Michael Hobble Anderson, and he's looked at, he took photographs of crossings in various places in Europe and South America mainly. And he analyzed how the spaces are being used, and he looked how many people were using that space. And he found that all this reddish space is basically being given to cars. This particular picture is only 23 cars. The blue space is given to pedestrians, and he didn't count them all, but there are something like 50 pedestrians waiting to use the space occupied by the cars. Again, a disproportionate amount of our public space is being given to cars. Just the message I'm trying to give you. Another aspect of that political car-centric thinking are the road safety strategies. In the 70s, I said I'd get back to the 70s. In the 70s, everybody was in love with cars, and the road toll was really high. And it was, in this case, where we're comparing Holland and Australia, it actually had about the same road toll per 100,000 people. The Dutch then decided that wasn't really good, wasn't looking very good, and they instituted a whole bunch of road safety strategies that were based on separating vehicles at different speed and different mass. So what they were saying is, if you have a relatively big vehicle, you shouldn't have it close to something that's really small and vulnerable. And so they were much clearer in their speed reduction, in their road separation. They were dropping the speeds. They put separate cycling infrastructure in, where they had to mix bicycles and cars. They dropped the speed to 30. A whole bunch of measures around that separation based on volume and speed. And as a result, in 2007, their rate came down to here, 4.3. Australia at 7.6. Now, you know, it doesn't look like a really big gap. But in the first context, this gap is worth about 60 people killed a year. That starts to become very serious. So because we have a car-centric society with car-centric thinking and car-centric politicians, we have a road safety strategy in Perth that kills 60 people a year that didn't need to be killed. And let's face it, over the last 15 years, despite the huge increase in car deaths, in trips, the huge increase in trips and cars, car deaths have basically leveled out. This is why the rate dropped, okay? So the number of deaths is roughly the same, hasn't changed very much, but there's more people, so the rate per 100,000 is dropped substantially. So I haven't got a graph for that. So car deaths basically leveled out. Cycling deaths increased 80%. So what are we doing for our most vulnerable users? Now, another problem I think we're having, which doesn't really directly relate to social justice, but heavily related to it, is the way that cyclists are often portrayed in the paper. And we had somebody who's an unpronounceable name, I'll try it anyhow, Harry Kasanginis, wrote an article that really reflected popular opinion when she complain about lack of even devotees causing regular freeway closures. We just have one of those. And she forgets that these freeway closures, to make the freeway bike hike, actually have contributed something like $3 million to charity. And she speculates also that a 40-kilometer speed limit will lead to road rage. She doesn't think that it will help people, right? And she also concluded in the article that in the car city, the 43% of bicycle riders are afraid to share the road with car drivers. They should go somewhere else. So, and it looks like a small version of the problem already existed 100 years ago, because I found that little picture on the internet of the cyclist Freight, a small gun, which is in the comment regarded as no lady or gentleman rider should be without one, and it talks about the lobby to the shooter. And I thought, yeah, that's really quaint and ancient. But then I came across another picture. That's in New York. Okay? I think it probably was in Europe before Bloomberg and Shannon can't change the environment a bit. But the lovely little shooter is alive and well. On bicycle riding, I don't know. I don't recommend that. But I think sometimes it can be more effective than a Fly 6. I don't have to say much more. It's pretty much finished. So if you want to change the way the community works, we might put the bicycle at the center of urban renewal. So what's cycling's dirty little secret? Well, it's not about cycling, it's about the way we live, the way we experience life, the way we connect with people. Just like that. My wife gave it to me as a birthday card. Not quite sure what she wanted to say. Basically, cycling can work in this dispersed urban and suburban environment of Perth like no other means of transport. There's no other means of transport that can do what cycling can do in the suburbs of Perth at that cost. Thank you very much. Oh, man. Any questions? Any comments?
Sure. With what you're saying about, you talked quite a bit about European countries.
Yep.
What's the main, like in your opinion, what is the main difference about why is there that drastic difference in a number of cyclists, both in Europe and here?
I really think that they are looking at people differently in Europe. I really think it is the question of how the political system wants to interact with the people, and what community they want to build. When I talked about no kids playing unsupervised in the streets, one thing that I noticed when I was in Switzerland a couple of years ago, cycled around with my wife, and we came to a school just as school was finishing, and we thought, oh, that's interesting. We are the parents. The kids were just walking out of the school and starting to disappear into the streets. And some of them, I'm not kidding you, were about that high. I'm talking about 5-year-olds. And I think, at least in Switzerland, they're trying to build communities where kids are safe. And then from there on, that respect for the people goes all the way through. They do have freeways. They probably have more efficient freeways than we have, but they are in the country as a freeway. They're not in the cities. Cities are for people. Suburbs are for people. So I think it's a basic attitude. That's a difference. And I think as soon as, I know it sounds like car bashing, but as soon as you put the car on top of the pyramid, you kill everything else underneath it. You just do.
The stats that you had up there saying that 0% of Perth population play unstructured in the street. Is that based on one particular suburb or one street?
No.
The data source?
I didn't. No. The data source. The data source for the other two is actually from Peter Newman, and he didn't put Perth in that comparison. So I just picked the figures, and yes, when I look at kids playing the street, and I'm cycling from Bassendean to Perth frequently, I do not see kids cycling the street. And I definitely in Bassendean at school, and I think it's through all primary schools, if you have a kid in pre-primary or in the first year, somebody has to pick that kid out. They won't actually let the kid just walk out into the street. And I remember the problem I had in the Bassendean primary when I asked my 10-year-old to pick up the 6-year-old. They said, no, you can't do that. So, no, I don't have proper figures, but my observation is that in Perth, kids don't play unsupervised on the street. I guess I could make it 0.2%, do you know, just for safety.
No, I was trying to understand it's one particular sector.
Yeah. But the rest of the data is actually quite well researched, and it's not just so cities, there's a whole bunch of cities they looked at and compared the mix of public transport and amount of kids playing in the street. Yeah. Oh, Sandra, it's so nice to see you here. Where's the baby? That's safe. That's good. Don't let him play in the street.
Not yet. Not going anywhere at the moment. So the title of this book is Cycling's Doing the Secret, something like that, and you sort of, at the end, sort of touched on what it's about. But the implication of there was a piece in the WA today that basically said it's not really about cycling. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Well, it's not about cycling, it's about community building. For me, it's about community building and social justice, like the things I've touched on here. It's not about cycling so far, it's not about exercise, it's not about lycra, it's not about most of the things that people associate with cycling. It's about the normal people doing normal trips on bicycles to get to shop, to school. And actually, as a matter of fact, if we don't get the situation right in the suburbs, we will have less than 2% cycling participation for the next 100 years. I don't know if I answered your question. I think you're right.
That's a powerful message. So then the next question, I guess, is how do you get the decision makers to come around to that way of thinking? Because I would argue that the shared path system we have, it's good, it's okay, but they're designed like roads.
Yep.
People don't walk on the right-hand side or the left-hand side when they're walking their dogs and their bikes or something. That's what the system that we've got. So how do you then
How do we change?
get the decision makers to come around to that?
That's the biggest problem. And for me the problem is that neither Labour nor Liberal are actually fully engaged in community building. And their cycling vision is okay, but not brilliant. And I think it's really hard to change that. Unfortunately, with the Westminster political system, where you have one party in power and one party there like a dog yapping at their heels to watch that they're not doing anything wrong, there's not much cooperative planning for the future. I don't have a huge amount of hope that we actually want to change that. We might be able to change it from the bottom up. So individual communities, perhaps Fremantle, perhaps Vincent, can decide that they want to have a bicycle, that they want to be a bicycle-friendly suburb. They'll have to go then to main roads and hit them on the head with a gigantic stick, not a 4x2, something much bigger, to get them to allow them to drop the speeds on their roads and close roads and things like that. And then basically we could have individual suburbs that become people friendly. And perhaps that will happen. I see that happening long before we have all of the metropolitan area people friendly. Yep. Anybody else? No, keep talking.
Yeah, I have a question about, I guess my worry is that because Perth has such a car-centric culture, how do you actually go about changing that culture? And do you think it is just a matter of, if you build it, they will come, provide better infrastructure, and that will be the catalyst to change the culture? Because I don't know, I think maybe if you do that, because the car-centric culture is just so ingrained, you might just end up with a bunch of people stuck in the same habits. Are there examples, maybe from Europe, where a car-centric culture has managed to change into a more people-friendly culture?
Yep. Yeah. And basically the only way you do that is to disadvantage cars.
Okay, so you need like a carrot and a stick.
Yeah.
You can't just have the carrot.
Carrot alone doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because the inertia and the comfort of a car, I mean, let's face it, you open the car, there's your music, there's air conditioning, it's very comfortable, even if you're stuck in traffic, or you can watch television, it's just, you have a little pod, it's very comfortable. The only way you're really going to change that is disadvantage cars. Congestion charge, time-space charging, so it's different times, there's different charges. The technology is here.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with, as somebody always explains, is have something like a credit card you stick in your car in a slot, and it entitles you a certain number of kilometers at a certain speed in a certain place.
Yeah.
Because all the roads in Perth are GPS mapped. So when you drive around, your car knows where it is exactly. And you can say, well, if you actually want to drive down St. George's Terrace at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll charge you $1 a kilometre. But if you drive down St. George's Terrace at 2 in the morning, it's 2 cents a kilometre.
Yeah.
And you start tying the road usage to money. That's one possible way. But unless you disadvantage cars, the bicycle picture will not usually.
I think in Perth, people just love their cars so much, there would be a massive backlash if you did start this.
Absolutely. That's why no politician will touch it.
Yeah.
When they looked at the road safety strategy 5 years ago here in Perth, half the benefits of life saved was achieved by reducing the speed on all roads in Western Australia by 10 kilometers an hour, and then over a period of time upping the speed on the ones that seem to be safe. But initially just dropped it all by 10 kilometers an hour. It was the most important measure in the road safety strategy at a very low cost, something like, I think, $6,000 per killed or serious injury avoided. The politicians would not touch it.
So how have other countries brought in these measures without the backlash? Or have they experienced the backlash and dealt with it, or how?
I'm going back to the political system, the Westminster system. It's the two parties, one is in and one is out. Zurich, which I know reasonably well, they keep reducing the number of parking spots in the CBD. And now it goes to a stage where every time they take a parking spot away, it actually has to go to Parliament because there's only 951 left. Public parking spots in the CBD. But they have a multi-party system, so it's not one party decides that and the other party says it's a bad idea when we get in, we're going to reverse that. By reversing it, we're going to get all the votes. So I think by having an antagonistic political system, it makes it very hard to get the change through and to change, and keep the change in place.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. Really, the cards are really stacked against these people-friendly measures.
Yeah.
In Australia and in Perth. Sorry.
Okay,
I'll go home and cry now.
I just wanted to endorse Margaret what you were saying there, because I remember being at one of the safety conferences meetings when it was suggested that drivers who lost their license would have to take a road test before it was reinstated. And everybody said, yeah, that'd be a really good idea, but it's just not going to happen.
That's right. You're right, and that's a really small measure. That doesn't even cost money. A lot of people don't know that, but when your license is being taken away from you here in West Australia, you don't actually lose it. It's not being taken away, it's suspended. So it doesn't matter what you do, the license just gets suspended. And when the suspension time is finished, you get a letter in the mail saying you can now drive again. And there is no attempt to examine why that person actually lost that license, so they need some extra education. Are they actually suitable to drive? In Switzerland, if you fail your driving test twice, you have to go for a psychological assessment to establish that you're actually mentally suitable to driving a car. In Australia, you can go as many times as you want. You just pay $150 and $150 and $150, and eventually you'll pass. You know, you'll just wear them down. They'll let you pass.
Yeah, it's seen as a right here in Australia rather than a privilege.
Yep, it's seen as a right, and losing a license is an inconvenience. And as I said, you don't lose it. It's there for life until you get to my age. Oh, another couple of years.
Alrighty, do we have any more questions? Alright, so again, on behalf of the club and myself, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming here today and presenting your speech. I hope everyone here can take something of value away from today's presentation. So I'd also like to thank you all again for attending today's event, and I hope that you can join us for more presentations held at this venue at the same time for the remainder of the week. So I'd also like to thank the Department of Transport, West Cycle, the Museum of Perth, Reese and the team, as well as Tim Burns, who's filming all these presentations, and they will be uploaded to the internet. And again, a massive thank you to Charlotte for the work that she's done.